for coming. Thank you to the SAINTCON program committee for accepting my talk. I'm Andrew Brandt, and this is Spearfishing a Hotel. That's inhospitable. And I'm not going to do the Daffy Duck voice. So a little bit about who I am. So I work, my day job is that I'm a principal researcher for Sophos XOps, which is a team that works within the labs that do malware research, the MDR team, our incident response team, data science. We find all the interesting research and we bring it to you to educate you. In addition to doing all of that, I'm a docent at a technology museum in Boulder, Colorado, where I live. This year, I spun up an organization to recruit more people just like you who work in InfoSec. If you would consider running for office and you have never done such a thing before and you have no idea how to get started, come talk to me. Elect More Hackers wants to help you get elected. And then in addition to that, my background is that before I worked in security, I was a journalist and worked at PC World and a bunch of other publications and did investigative research on security stuff. So before we begin talking about this topic, I just want to do a quick land acknowledgement because I haven't seen one here yet. So we're here in Provo, which is the traditional and unceded territory of several tribes, including the Confederated Tribes of the Goshute Indians, the Navajo Nation, the Northern Ute Tribe, the Northwestern Band of Shoshone, the Paiute Indian Tribe of Utah, the San Juan Southern Paiute, the Skull Valley Band of Goshute, and the White Mesa Band of the Ute Mountain Utes, who were stewards of this land since time immemorial. So today, we're honoring their history of land stewardship by borrowing this space for a little while to teach people how to protect themselves from some real dirtbags who prey on the vulnerable. So a year ago, I came in and I gave a quick talk about some social engineering attacks that were targeting tax accountants. So people who would do your tax preparation in April and hopefully get your stuff filed on time. There were some social engineering attacks that were targeting accountants, and the way that they were doing it is very similar to what we're seeing in these attacks. So in these, what we're calling the inhospitality attacks, it starts with a sort of benign email that does not contain any kind of malicious content. It intentionally draws in the recipient of the email to engage with the threat actor who's doing this scam. And it also has the side effect of working as a bypass because there are so among the many products that Sophos sells is we do an anti-spam tool. And as a result of doing these research projects for some of the tax accountants and then on the hotels, we realized that some of our triggers for malicious spam were not getting triggered on some of these attacks. And the way that they were getting around it was by engaging in this conversation that had no malicious content in it, so that there was a history of communication back and forth between the attacker and their target. And as a result of this, we stumbled upon a bunch of these different kinds of attacks that we didn't realize were happening. So this one that was targeting the hotel industry it's the most service of the service industries, right? Because the whole point of people who work in hotels is to make your visit as a guest as pleasant and as warm as possible. They want you to have good feelings so you come back and stay with them again. And so if there are any problems, they are there to work out those problems. So let's talk a little bit about how to social engineer a hotel, or in this case, maybe not how to social engineer a hotel. So most of these attacks started with one of two kinds of initial contact. So as I mentioned, the attackers would send the hotel an email right from the beginning, and then the hotel would respond with trying to get more information. And so these were some of these initial attacks. And I'm sorry, I walked to the back of the room and looked, and it's really hard to read some of these words. I tried to blow them up as big as possible, but it's really not easy to read. And I will just summarize for you. This person said that they were a guest in the hotel. They were staying there and their mother got sick, so they had to leave in a hurry. And they left their camera in the room, and their camera has precious final moment photographs of the person who was staying there with their mother, and they wanted to get that back. And could the person check and see if it was there? There wasn't a lot of this that made sense. Like, how do you leave your camera to go be with your mother and then have their final moments preserved on? forget about it. It's a terrible social engineering trick. Here's one that's a little easier, right? While I was staying in your hotel, I lost my purse. I think I left it in the room. Could you please, if I send you a picture of what it looks like, can you, take a look and see if you've got it in your lost and found? And, of course, these were not the only kinds of requests that these hotels received. Some of the people who were making requests, they were asking, I have somebody who's on a very restricted diet because they have food allergies. Can we talk about the cleaning supplies that are used in the room? They have allergies to certain chemicals. I wanted to talk to you about safety. I have an elderly relative who's coming to visit me and doesn't have technology and doesn't have a phone to check in, or can you help me with ensuring that they get checked in properly? A whole range of these kinds of request type emails. But then there were other kinds of emails, and these were the ones that I thought were sort of the most frightening and the ones that would trigger the strongest reaction from the hotel. And these were really serious complaints. And so this first one, now I'm going to show you a few of these, and they were all done within 24 hours of each other, sent to different hotels. And by the way, these were not chain hotels like the ones that you kind of are seeing here in town. They were very, very high-end boutique hotels with a very exclusive clientele. So it kind of makes sense why the person would be targeting the hotel. It was maybe to get some information about the guests, maybe to break in and steal payment information. It's not really clear what their goal was, other than they wanted to get onto the manager's computer, and they were using these complaints to start this conversation to get the manager to really react strongly. And so this first one says, for the first moment I arrived, I noticed there were numerous concerns. The room was tarnished. There was problems. And then, within about 6 hours, we saw another one where they said, this time we found an empty bottle of liquor in the room, and it was dirty, and the bed was messed up, and someone left a bucket in there when they were mopping the floor. And then, about 4 hours after that, we saw a third one to a third different hotel. And now they're really building up the story. So they not only did they find alcohol, they found a used condom, they found, they found a variety of different kinds of drugs and drug residue all over the room. So, I mean, this was like the Rolling Stones were partying in this room just before I got here, and you guys didn't clean it up enough. And yes, it was all just sort of random gibberish, but it's the kind of thing that if you're a hotel manager and you hear about this stuff, you are going to want to inquire about more information to see what really happened here, because they're normally if something really like this happened, they would, give you a credit or give you extra points on your system or offer you a free night's stay. So of course, and these are the actual responses from some of the managers. I had to block out, sorry, the images are weird because I had to block out the logos as well as the name and information about everybody who was responding. But they all asked the same thing, which was, I'm so sorry to hear about that. Can you tell me more? When were you staying here? Do you have a reservation number? What's your name? And the threat actor would ignore this. And they would not obviously tell them that they were guests in the hotel and give them fake information, because then, the manager looks it up and we don't have any record that you were staying here. So they just bypass it. And the way that they bypass it is by getting really angry, because they've just now walked into a room that the Rolling Stones have just trashed. And now they really, want you to see just how bad it is. And so this is where they are spreading their hook. So in this case, they were delivering an email that had a link to evidence files, and these were zips or RAR files of what they said were either photographs or videos of this malfeasance that they experienced in the room. In this case, they said, the employee who worked as a cleaner was called me a racist name, and the room was in terrible shape, and here's the video. And the link was on Mega. It was a file that was just uploaded to a standard cloud storage service, and it was a zip file with a password 123456. Not exactly high security, but just enough to get around anything that would be inspecting the contents of that zip file and trying to scan it for malware. So, what we saw was that there was a whole variety of these cloud infrastructure services that were being targeted in this way. So we saw Google Drive, we saw Mega, as I mentioned before. There were lots of these links on Mega. There was also Dropbox that was used for these kinds of things. And our favorite, Discord. So all of these cloud services have been, over the years, have been abused by threat actors for these purposes. Discord is the one that it's just, I am so shocked that, here we are, in the year 2024, and you can still upload like massive executables into a gamer chat room and then use that to deliver malware to people. It's kind of shocking. So let's talk a little bit about what was on the other end of these files. So the initial payload was, as I mentioned, it was this zip file, but when you unzipped it, it was very, very, very large. So typically there were about 1 to 2 megs when they were compressed. And then when you entered that password and you unzipped it, it was between 600 and 700 megs in size. So as I mentioned here, it was roughly 342,682 times the size when you unzipped it. So this had 2 effects. So as I mentioned, the password protected zip made it impossible to automate in an automated way for the cloud services to scan the contents of the zip. The large size of the unzipped file, once you took it out of its password protected zip, was so large it exceeds the limits that most cloud-based or even like physical hardware-based sandboxes can use to detonate malware. So I think VirusTotal has like 300 to 350 megs is like the upper limit if you have an API key, and it's lower if you're just uploading it through their website. Any run also has these limits where you can only put in a file that's like 50 megs or 100 megs at the top end, and these were 650 megs, so far beyond anything that any automated tool could scan. And again, they were not using super high security here. They're just using passwords like 1111 or 2023, info 2023. All of these 6 passwords were used in something like 40 to 60 different attacks that all took place within a 3-week period around the holidays at the end of last year. So some other characteristics of these files that were interesting was that even though they were these massively inflated executables, they were all cryptographically signed, but they were cryptographically signed with fake certificates. So this one was signed by Quantum HVAC Systems Incorporated. They're the company that it can be hot and cold at the same time, and you're never really sure which. So the contents of these files were just commodity stealers. So there were 2 different stealers that they were using. One was called Vadar stealer, one was called Redline stealer, and these stealers are really, really simple tools that all they do is they scrape the hard drive looking for specific locations where sensitive data might be stored, and they package that up into a report, and then they exfiltrate that, and then they kind of quit. So they're very simple, one-off, one-use tools. When we were looking at them and we were running them, we saw that the makers of these tools had gone to some interesting lengths to conceal the command and control address. So sometimes in the past, it was possible to reverse engineer these or even just dump out the strings if it wasn't packed and be able to see the C2 address that it was going to talk to. So now what these attackers are doing, and I'm seeing this in a wide variety of different attacks, is that they're connecting to Telegram to get more information. So Telegram, the chat service that is very popular with a lot of people, has a bot API that you can sign up. Anybody can sign up for an account and can create a key that lets them use the API. And the API allows you to, through a browser, connect over HTTPS to a specific chat channel and either send messages or receive information about what's in that channel. And the channel itself had a title for the channel that was an IP address and a port. And that so it would connect into this Telegram channel, and it would just look at the memo that was like the title of the channel, and it would pull that down and use that as its C2. So pretty interesting stuff. And Telegram is not particularly responsive to turning off these API keys that the threat actors are using. as I mentioned, like some of you know that I ran for office last year, and when I was running for office, a threat actor targeted my campaign with a phishing attack, and the phishing attack also used Telegram to exfiltrate the data, and it took reporting it to US CERT and CISA before Telegram would shut it off. So they're not that responsive, but if you're persistent, you can get them to turn it off, but they were not responsive to me. Here's what it was inside of a sample report. So these stealers, they do things like profile the PC that they're on and find everything from the serial number of the hard drive, this amount of RAM that's in it, to every single name of every folder that's on the hard drive. And then, of course, it will go into things like the browser password storage database, and it will just extract out all those passwords and plop them into this plain text file, which it then zips up and exfiltrates out. The stealers were also doing things like pulling cookies. So cookie content can be used almost like a security key, especially if you log in and you're like, save my login so I don't have to log in the next time. A lot of those cookies can be reused. So it was extracting out all the cookie data, all the saved passwords. It was looking for cryptocurrency wallets that were installed on the machine, and it would extract out all the cryptocurrency addresses out of your wallet. So lots of good stuff. I don't know how many hotel managers keep their cryptocurrency wallet on the work laptop. However, they were looking for it anyway, and who knows if they were, successful. So what was inside of some of that traffic? So as you can see here, there's some stuff that I scraped out of Wireshark when I was capturing the data. Of course, I am the guy who clicks everything bad, runs all those malware in my lab. I infect my machines just to watch them die so you don't have to. And this is the kind of stuff that you get when you can do this kind of work. You can learn that they're using an iPhone user agent string to do the exfiltration. So it's connecting into Telegram, pretending to be an iPhone. This was running on a Windows laptop. And then you can actually see that inside of the packets, it was doing this like HTTP post submission of a lot of form data, and it included this enormous section here of base64 encoded data, which was a screenshot of the machine, which, as it happens, was me looking at the malware doing what it was doing and what it was talking to at that moment. So the malware distributor who was working this attack got a screenshot of my test system, and yes, it was completely ridiculous. I think at that moment they must have known that they were caught. So let's talk a little bit about what do we do about this problem? So we're all working in information security, and we work in a world in which we are constantly confronted with a universe of people working in a multitude of different kinds of jobs for whom security has never been something that they have been taught. And it has been my mission as a security researcher for a very long time. I'm not going to say how long, but it's more than 20 years that I've been seeing these threat actors using these same techniques and using people's ignorance of social engineering against them. And it is time that we grow past that. So one of the things that I was running on when I was running for school board, and one of the things that I'm pushing very strongly in Elect More Hackers, is for people who are in a position to help. So state boards of education and the U.S. Education Department can enact a cybersecurity curriculum at K through 12. And if you saw Dave Kennedy's keynote yesterday, where his company is doing this at a small scale at one high school, it needs to be everywhere. This has to be something that kids are taught when you are at the same age as you are holding their hand and telling them to look both ways as they cross the street. They need to be taught the stranger danger of the internet, because every kid that I know is getting handed a Chromebook in first grade and just being told, go for it. So we need to teach people these basic cybersecurity skills, which I'm not going to repeat here because everyone in this room already knows about this. But I will say that at least in the case of attacks against hotels, there is a retail and hospitality ISAC that basically is they're the information sharing center for the hotel industry. They were incredibly useful when we discovered that this attack was ongoing, and that they were the wide variety of hotels that the target was hitting. They were very responsive. They were interested to hear our research, and they shared that out to basically the entire hotel industry. So good on them for the RHISAC. And then a friend of mine, James W.T., who is on the social medias, he at his company echoed that he had seen a lot of these same attacks going on at the same time, and shared a bunch of hashes with me so that we could do this research. So thank you, James. Wanted to acknowledge that. So the lessons that we take away. So everything that we can MFA should be behind multi-factor authentication. And when you are setting up MFA, there are a variety of different ways you can do it. You can have a TOTP app on your phone where it generates a 6-digit number that you have to enter. The one that I found to be the most effective is the MFA where you are trying to log in. The login does a push to your phone, and instead of asking you to just say yes or no, it displays a number on the computer screen, and you have to type in that number on the phone in order for the yes to go through. It defeats the threat that Dave was talking about yesterday, where people just push the push notifications to people 17 times until they just get fed up and they click yes. They can't do that when you have to enter a number and they don't know what the number is. So there's also these FIDO2 keys like YubiKeys and other things that you can use to protect these networks. But the main thing and the thing that was the most successful with most of the hotels, and I interviewed several of the managers where these attacks had taken place, they said they just slow everything down. They don't get emotional when someone brings up that a member of their staff assaulted someone, but they don't give the information about who they are, when it happened, what floor it happened on. They can't give any real information. That's when the hotel managers, who are obviously trained in this, know to just slow it down, don't click anything, be suspicious. And it was effective. As far as we know, all of the people from hotels who received these messages did not become victims. They didn't click through. But you can only imagine that a hotel manager's machine has even more access than just a front desk clerk's machine. It would have access to payroll for their employees. It would have access to their PCI payment system that they're using for credit cards. It would have information about guests, current and former, and reservations. It might give you access to the reservation system where you could book a hotel room for free and just be able to check in and show up and just use the hotel to your whim. So there's lots of reasons why a hotel could be targeted in this way. And fortunately for us, at least the managers at hotels seem to be aware now that this is happening. But who knows what industry will come next? So here's a link to the QR code goes to the research. The other QR code goes to the Elect More Hackers website. I'm here if you wanted to ask a few questions. We've got 2 minutes. And if we run out of time, I will be out in the hallway to chat with you. But thank you so much, very much for your attendance. Oh, and do you have any questions?
Please.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about something that's kind of related, or at hotel, Fisher to hotel. I don't know if you that's where in the hotel, what I could tell and probably first that one you talk open and right. I come across a number hotel we've done business with that don't use their change email infrastructure or website infrastructure. I know I need to have this hotel site and not have any.
All right, so let me try to repeat the question, which was kind of long. So the question was, if a lot of hotels in which the hotels don't use the corporate infrastructure for their messaging, and what can you do as a consultant or a client of theirs to encourage them to use their appropriate. I would say if they're not using the corporate infrastructure, I would talk to the manager and ask why are they not protecting customers in the way that they should. It's just a simple thing. They need to use these services in order to appear legit, and there shouldn't be any shadow IT running on their network. But yes, it is a kind of a problem. I don't have a great answer for that.
Just wondering, like, if there's security contact with what you say.
Yes, all of the big chain hotels have security contacts. And do you guys know about the security.txt file? So if you go to the hotel's website, /.well-known/security.txt, there is usually contact information there as well. Yeah. Okay, thanks. I'm going to go, and I don't want to keep anyone from lunch, but I will be in the hallway. So thank you.